odd one.
Listen, I've watched this show. I can't be more handicapped because I'm retarded for watching this show.
Oh, it's loyal, and then
Maybe.
and then this happens.
No, it's
What? Did you get a wig from the reject shop, you fucking idiot? Like that would have cost you $2, you fucking what? What is it, for fuck's sake? Just get a fucking proper head on the and some ears, like proper ears, like a twitchy fucking ears, and some kind of like droopy eyebrows. Like it's not that hard. Like you've got the actor, just get it right, you fucking Jesus.
Rand's road of trials on his hero's journey was dealing with a drugged-up best friend and a mid-looking black chick trying to sleep with him and then stealing his stuff and trying to stab him when he refused.
Yeah.
That's not epic fantasy. That's like a Tuesday night out in Atlanta. Like, how is this like an epic fantasy story? This is ridiculous.
Rand lifts up Egwene again, carrying her across the room as they kiss. He lays her down on the sheepskin rug in front of the dwindling fire, puts his body on top of hers. He pulls back from their kiss, and their faces are just inches apart now, the fire casting soft light on them. You know, my dad said I used to pick you baskets of berries to bring you when I was a kid, like some lovesick puppy. Sounds sweet to me. Rand pulls a small raspberry from his pocket with a roguish smile. He runs it down her nose and drops it sensually between her lips.
No, in Edmund's Field, women like absolutely dominated the entire social strata of like relationships and domestic life. By making it like this weird hookup culture, they actually made the women less powerful than they were in the book.
Flicker, 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 flicker. I have won again, Luz Theron.
All right, we're back for doing this again. I'm so sorry for all the 2 people who have joined us so far. Maybe more people will trickle in, but please don't. If you are going to watch this not live, you'll have the luxury of speeding this up to 2 times speed or 1.5 times speed, whatever you prefer. But do that because we're getting sloppy. I'm this far down this bottle, and I've already polished off 1. So I don't even know if I'm going to survive to the end of the night. Alex, how about you? You've been drinking all day as well, I presume?
All evening. We had a corporate event.
Okay, yeah. So for me, it's just Monday, but you actually have an excuse. Okay, great. Thanks for coming out, bud. I like the last time we did this because it's good to have someone manage the chat, even though I did my best to make sure no one's watching this live. But also to bounce ideas off back and forth. And dude, with your own review inbound, I know you're probably not going to change your script or anything that gets mentioned here, but God, that episode 1 you did, that was hilarious. I really like it. And it's our best video ever on the channel. So you're doing a better job than me, and thanks for suffering through this for hours and hours. Well, maybe not hours, 2 hours. We're doing episodes 2 and 3 together, just so you know. I've got 90 slides this time, which across 2 episodes is better than the 70 I had for episode 1. But shall we dive into it?
Let her rip.
All right. So we open up with a flashback, a cold open. We're in Caemlyn, the high seat of Andor, and the first thing I'm reacting at like 5 in the morning when I'm watching this is no, a high seat is a person, it's not a place. So way to get even the fundamental thing wrong there. And 20 years ago, I stumbled upon this today, is the Aiel War is happening right during this time. So I guess there's a big war going on at Tar Valon 20 years ago, and Andor is in the middle of civil war, which isn't how it happened. But Yeah. Anyways, we get introduced to the Andoran High Court.
So,
You got some white lion. Go ahead,
I feel like
Alex.
you buried the lead here. This show is so woke that it gender swapped the logo.
I was just getting there. Yes.
Oh, sorry. Sorry.
We got white lions, but they're all female lions. They're not proper Dutch lions with an actual mane and a penis. Although they're, wait a second. No, that's his leg. That's not a penis on the Dutch lion. But we also get a discount Cersei Lannister. Was that the first thing that struck you as well? Is they basically dressed her up exactly like mid-season Game of Thrones Cersei?
My question, honestly, the number one thing that always sticks me about this show is why is every set a circle of the same diameter?
See, and I don't think this is the same set. I think this at least is a location that they found somewhere. And I think they have to get out of this room and go into a smaller throne room. So maybe I don't want to go and look, but maybe they dressed up a throne room that's an actual on set, right?
I don't know. I mean, it may very well be a real set that just so happens to be a circle of the same diameter as the Hall of the Tower. But it's like every set is the same geometry.
Anyways, I'm getting the sense here that Gawain is the older brother and Galad is the younger brother, because they both have kind of the. There's the two little boys. There's probably nothing about. There's no Tarangale who would still be around. Time for racist joke number one. I'm kind of surprised that Elaine didn't grow up half black like Avienda, because the father's apparently missing. But whatever. Kidding. Kidding. All right. Some of the costumes are very Handmaid's Tale. The lions all look dumb. The throne especially looks dumb because they look like a pair of pit bulls on either side. Morghese is a complete and utter cow in victory because she starts saying to everybody like, oh, there was a war and now it's over and we can be friends again because I won it. Well done. And then out of fucking nowhere, 5 a.m, watching this, and we get a freaking red wedding. This boggled my mind. I didn't think they would go there. I think you mentioned on Nerdporial Stream, this is what a good way to introduce a villain. And why aren't our plucky heroes off to kill the evil queen? And the worst thing about this too, watching this again with the X-ray feature up that I saw by accident, Linny. They destroyed Linny's character in this because Linny is the one who covers Gawain's eyes when the murders are about to happen, which means Linny was in on the whole murder plot. So just let that sink in. They couldn't just butcher Morghese, they had to butcher Linny as well. Anyways, okay. We open up then on the next scene. It's now in the present, and thankfully Elaine is doing what she said she was going to do in the last episode, which is learn how to clean. Varen comes into her room and notes that there's a boombox playing outside and asks why your mother is here. There are better ways to basically announce this kind of stuff. But yeah, we get the big entrance. Morghese looks like an ugged out version of the Queen of Hearts from Alice in Wonderland. And we get a very important lesson about politics, which is it's very important to keep people waiting, yourself included, as well as the other people outside. It's just kind of dumb. They come into the hall. Gabriel, his name gets stumbled over by Leanne, and this is the first stupid subtle hint that there's some compulsion going on. So let's just remember that. Elida, we get to meet her as well. She notes that there are 3 red sisters in the hall this time, and they're the same ones from the intro from the previous episode. So it's Galena Caspam, Sutama, and Ninja Sadai. So they're all still alive. Basically, they were the full-on sitters, and they were kept out of the hall, which is just mind-boggling that was actually allowed in the previous episode. This is one thing I will note, because it's just odd when we get a subsequent conversation. Morghese and Swan are being absolute cows to each other.
Yes.
Just in public, just being absolute bitches. And then in the later one, they talk about how politics is a performance and you can speak differently in private, but usually it's the other way around, right?
Right.
You're more frank and more bitter to each other when no one else is watching and you can kind of speak one-on-one. You don't put on a performance to be an absolute bitch to everybody in public. It's the opposite.
Especially when they both emphasize that this is a very important allyship that we can't mess up. Come on, guys, it's not that hard.
You can't even do politics right. But thankfully, we cut away from this dumb scene and we get some walking through mountains. The music, I didn't hate it. I think I'm going to hate it if I dive into it and find out that the lyrics are only Sidene, 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 which is probably what was said, but that's stupid. But Wheel of Time was never a... By this point in the story, like Rand travels to the Waste with a portal stone. And in the Eye of the World, they're using the Ways, and they use portal stones in book 2. And the reason why they stop traveling normally is because they figure out how to travel with the one power. But anyways, got to copy Lord of the Rings, I guess. And speaking of the
like even The Rock was this, I thought was the same from Lord of the Rings. Like, am I crazy?
I wouldn't put it past this fucking production to fly to New Zealand just to like walk across the same freaking mountains that Frodo and Sam did, and all the rest. I mean, they're wasting money on everything else. But anyway, we're in the 2 rivers now, and we're gonna go pretty rapid through this and just keep high-low. I like this. I like this a lot, and it boggles my mind that they couldn't have done this in season 1. This would have fixed a lot of gripes about episodes 6 and 7 in particular, right?
Absolutely. I even have a comment in the video that's coming out shortly that is basically well, wait, why didn't you do this in season 1? But also at some point you have to stop retconning things and just go with what you've done the last 2 seasons. Like if you
have to take the L.
Yes, you have to take the L. You can't keep just changing things because it's bad.
But more to the point, why didn't they, if they could just take the Ways with the 4 of them from Tar-Valon to here, why didn't they take the Ways from Falm to Tar-Valon? Because those are 2 waygates that have been used by them before. They would know where they are. They haven't used them in Etherin Waygate. But anyways, so it is a giant upgrade. I don't know why they didn't do this before. They even, like, Loyal mentions, like, this is much more pleasant than using channeling to travel the Ways. Okay, well, why didn't you say that 4 years ago? Although the Waygate that I checked, the Waygate that they had in season 1 didn't have the, like, leaves and the bas relief or whatever on the side. So, but it also didn't have this vine structure or whatnot. So,
yeah.
And this lasts all of about 3 seconds to get fucking stupid because Perrin sees some tracks. Says it's a man and a woman somehow, and he smells ashes. So it's Alana, and he's smelling Ivan as face paint.
How good is Perrin's nose?
I don't.
Or how bad does Alana smell?
It's got to be one of the two, but it got rubbed in with clay and other stuff. Like it wouldn't necessarily smell like ash still, unless they like prepared Ivan right. Maybe they hauled Ivan's corpse with them through the Ways and then like burnt him right at the step of the way gate to make face paint. I don't know. Then they talk. Go ahead.
Well, it's jarring because, like, you know, if I'm going to accept the fact that, you know, he can smell her, she has to have been there pretty much like a day ago, right? Like she can't have passed by there 2 weeks ago. But
the day is the timing that makes sense.
But the way that Marin Elvire acts, like she acts like they're best buddies.
We'll get to that. Oh man. So, anyways, we could do some more lore dumping about the longing that the Ogier experience. It's just pure telling all throughout. And then we've got a very nice manicured pathway leading up to this waygate that no one apparently knows about, which is just also weird.
Yeah.
All right, so we cut back to Elaine. She is happy for her family reunion. So she comes into the quarters that have been given to her family, and she meets with Gawain and Galad and pause for a slight couple of seconds. Gabriel, oh, I remember you. So again, here, I really think that Galad is the younger brother, and they're not doing anything like he's a half-brother and not a half-brother of Rand or anything like that. Gabriel says something stupid, which is a head full of steam, which is not any type of terminology that would exist in a pre-industrial society. So like this, you kind of need steam power for that to become an idiom. They mentioned that Morghese would not let all of her ducklings go, but she did in the books. And more to the point, that was kind of how she found out that Elaine left the tower. Because if she was here all alone, how did Morghese get wind that Elaine had left the tower in the first place? I don't know. Galad is a bit of a braggart, which is the opposite of his character. And then Elaine gets told that she has to go home. So she cannot learn to clean, and she is sad. There's Galad. All right, you ready for the stupidest scene in the first 15 minutes of this? So Matt is getting an MRI, and it doesn't actually work. And from this segment of Weaves going into his brains like this, I really think that they're setting something up for later in the season with Tiny Sedai. I think because Tiny Sedai is apparently the memory wipe expert, and Matt desperately wants his memories wiped. They're gonna like meet up in Tanchico in the like end of the season, and that's why everybody who's seen the ending of the season hates it, and Matt's arc in particular. That's where I think they're going. Speculation for now, but I'm calling it. But this chick is here too. So if you don't know this Rima Sedai, who got collared by the Shan-Chan and was the object of like episode 7 in the previous season, she's back. And okay, fine. Maybe she wasn't exploded on the ships by Moron and her, hunter seeker killer missile weave. Maybe they were able to free her. But if she's back and a full sister and had the full briefing about Liandrin, that Liandrin was Black Ajah, because if you recall, this is who Nynaeve and Elaine told about, like breaking all 3 oaths, even though Liandrin never broke the second oath, but whatever. But she's back. She could have testified. Why did she not? Why did they have to come back to Tar Valon to provide testimony if Rima was heading back to Tar Valon? Why did they all have to go? Why not all the characters that needed plot points in the tower, like Egwene for her dumb accepted test, Nynaeve to be here, Matt because he's worried about his... Why don't they all go with Rima, and then the other ones kind of go elsewhere? You didn't have to have that stupid reunion in Tar Valon in the last episode, which made no sense, but... She still calls Nynaeve the wisdom and has the gall to point out that you can't bring people back from the dead, even though the show does nothing but resurrect people who've been dead.
I was going to say, this is Nynaeve's like 3rd resurrection from the dead. Why is Liandrin still in the Tower of Rima's here? And it's not like she's like, getting set up. She appears to be very comfortable. Like the implication seems to be that she
got a new haircut.
Right?
She's got new clothes, haircut, back at the hot. Doesn't have any trauma of being collared, no trauma about her warder getting murdered or anything like that. Nope, she's just totally fine. But all right. So Swan and Morghese talking in hallways, being nice to each other, even though they were cunts to each other in the previous scene in public. So whatever. Swan basically says Elaine is safer here in the tower than anywhere else in the world. Breaking the first oath again because the tower exploded like a week ago and it's filled with dark friends. Like, oh, looks like we got a Silverlock. Thank you so much, sir, for the super sticker. That's much appreciated. Just so anyone who's watching this knows, we're kind of chatting with each other. Hopefully Alex has time to look at the chat. I've got a lot of stuff to read. We appreciate the super chats and super stickers because you guys probably know we don't take any of the money that we raise through our channel. Alex takes all the funds and uses it to buy copies of the books to put in public libraries or school libraries. So that's what we've decided we're going to do. True book supporters. So the more copies of The Eye of the World and some of the earlier books that we could put out, maybe a kid stumbles upon the actual books and picks it up and starts reading them. That's what we're doing with everything that gets sent to the White Cloaks. So thank you, Silverlock. Okay. Side note then. So Swan does not mention that there are dark friends in the tower at all, even though it's kind of implied that that she says it later. I think they did this scene where all of a sudden Elaine, who was just in a different room with her family, went back to her dorm. And in the meantime, the Queen and the Amerlin were just walking the halls together. So doesn't make sense. It's kind of weird blocking. I think it's just so that Elaine can say mother and mother the way she does it. So she shows her mom her dorm room. Yay. There's some talking about, oh, I think the Amerlin's hiding something. They still don't know what's happened in the entire city, even though the city blew up. Like, did they not see the smoke plumes when they were marching up? Did they have no agents in the city whatsoever? Has there been no gossip? Has there been no rumors about a fucking attack in the tower?
How is the number one conversation in the tower? How are we going to replace 11 sitters when 7 of them are dead and 4 ran away? Like,
one of them got cut in half.
Right.
They cleaned up that blood stain pretty good. I guess they had a lot of novices with their mops. Not Elaine. She doesn't know how to mop yet. But yeah. Anyways, from this, it gets reiterated that they're gonna, make Elaine take her honorary ring and come back to Caemlyn. Don't they know that she can actually channel? Like, most women, like daughter heirs or daughters of high seats that go to Tarvalon and get the honorary ring thing, like, if they could actually channel, they'd go and become sisters. That's what makes Elaine kind of special. There's no way that the Amerlin would give her up. I mean, the plots in the books are even all about this. Like, Morghese threatens to do this, yes, but there's no way Siuan would actually do this and gets her machinations going to kind of keep Elaine in the tower.
I guess I'm going to sort of push back on this and go the opposite direction. It does not appear that Siuan is in any position to oppose Morghese if Morghese wants to bring her back. And also, it makes infinity sense for Moraine or for Morghese to want to bring her back.
Well, now it does.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like this has now gotten so screwed up that what Morghese is doing makes sense.
It's basically like, I'll take Elaine back, and you can send an Aes Sedai tutor or 3, and she can learn to channel that way. She doesn't need to be here anymore. I could see that happening, but
yeah, I mean,
anyway.
at this point, what does the White Tower offer Morghese other than a chance that her daughter doesn't make it through the arches? Like, there's negative. I mean, and plus, Siuan's about to ask Elaine to hunt the Black Ajah. Like,
yeah, we'll get to that. Oh man. All right, so Egwene is sitting here with her dumb ring and her dumber X-Men outfit. We get the sword scene that we kind of broke down on some previous streams, but I still have to know, this bugs me. The sounds of the sword swooshing through the air bugs me. That Lan interrupts the sword fighting to be like, Sheepherder, your mind is elsewhere. Do you want to talk about your feelings? Yeah, we wanted to see Lan train the boys in some types of weapon. We didn't want this. We didn't want like swooshing in air and little sword forms and then break it up with Lan requesting, like, do you want to have a therapy session?
Well, it's a direct callback to chapter 1 of The Great Hunt. But it's like, if you took chapter 1 of The Great Hunt and made it gay, modern, and feminized, like, they're not smashing blades, they're doing yoga with swords. Instead of Lan knowing Rand well enough to ask him, or to just basically tell him, like, in the Borderlands, your stepdad's your dad, stop being emo about this. It's like, do you want to talk about your feelings? Like, it's just, they basically wrote this as if these two were women, and they're not. But the writer, who is a woman, isn't talented enough to write something as though it's two men talking.
It's unfortunate she didn't have an example that she could draw inspiration from, like the books.
Yeah, right. That's tough.
Yeah.
This entire subplot of Rand being mad at Moraine for ignoring him is just baffling. Like, why did they choose to steal this from the Great Hunt and not take the Shadow Rising, where she's annoying the shit out of him by being in his business all the time?
Just wait until he gets mad at her for trying to have him and his friends killed in the last episode. Anyways, Avienda shows up. She caught a spear with a rabbit, even though that's not how you hunt rabbit. Maybe you could, but you wouldn't. You'd use a snare or a sling. And then Avienda knows a shit ton about Aiel prophecy that basically no Aiel knows. So, Here, sheepherder, you want to talk about your feelings? No, thanks, Lan. And she's mad that her prophecies suck, even though she would have no idea about them. But yeah. And then we cut to the Two Rivers. We're going to do some more walking. There's some stupid comment about clean air. Okay, whatever. They walk past Egwene's river. They stroll into town and barely get noticed. They kind of get noticed. You can see that the Wine Spring Inn is completely reconstructed, although Perrin's wife's smithy is still missing the front wall. Cool.
Sweet.
Yeah. Merrin comes up, and she almost doesn't recognize Perrin with that beard, but he had a beard in season 1. Again, it's a book line, because when he does come back to the Two Rivers and he has a beard because Fael made him grow one, he was complaining about how itchy it is. Merrin says, I almost didn't recognize you without that beard. Show Perrin had a beard, has always had a beard, would have been seen with a beard in season 1. That now the line doesn't make any sense, but they're not too clever. And the fact that Eamon Valdez still has his fucking arm in a sling means some continuity they actually keep right, but things like this they just don't get.
Do you think Eamon Valdez actor is actually crippled and like he just has a sling on all the time? As like
maybe this is his. The other weird thing about him is he's kind of got like a white patch in his hair that keeps fucking growing with every scene. But we'll get to that when we get to it. But anyway, because we now know that Perrin has learned how to whisper talk from Lan, all he does is whisper talk. So he whispers the name of Mistress Elvire. Loial somehow hears it and says that Mistress Elvire, her name sings in his ears. And that was whispered 20 feet away. But the one thing that wasn't said was that Merrin Alvire was the mistress of the Wine Spring Inn. So the fact that the Aiel maidens call her roof mistress and ask permission to defend her hold, that makes no sense. But it gets dumber in about 3 seconds.
I can buy that one. Okay.
I'm nitpicking here. Maybe they heard about Egwene Alvire and that she was the daughter of an innkeeper. So maybe it's stretching it. But
I think it's just more that Perrin goes over to her and she seems to be in charge.
Anyways, there's some white cloaks that ride by, very unperceptive because there's like 2 Aiel and an Ogier and Perrin who they're looking for, like not 50 feet from them.
Right.
Oh yeah, here's Merrin. Here's your name sings in my ear. But then we get to this, and this was a good comment that was in our Discord. But this is wild when you think about it. Perrin and Alana have never met.
No,
never before. In the books, they hadn't met. Perrin knew Varen because Varen was with Alana and their warders or whatnot in the Two Rivers. But that's how we as readers kind of get introduced to Alana. Well, Egwene and Nynaeve know Alana a little bit from their time in the tower, but Perrin has never met Alana. Perrin has also never met Alana in the show. Perrin has also never met Varen in the show. So I guess we'd be equally fucked if she had come along too. But that they recognize each other and they have to add a line in a later scene about where did you go after the fight in the tower and where's your other ward? Or Nynaeve told us about Ivan. Oh.
I'm absolutely fascinated. How much time elapsed in between episodes 1 and 2?
I think a day.
That's kind of the impression I got as well.
Although it might, I think it probably took a little bit of time for the Elaine plot to pick up because otherwise Morghese might be better informed about, seeing the smoke coming from the tower. It sounds like Rand and Avienda and company have been traveling for a little while, given how close to the waist they are. But unless Perrin took like a very slow route to get to the Tarvalon Waygate,
I was gonna say
they're a day out. You know, maybe Perrin remembered how all the horses they had in the previous time they went to the Tarvalon Waygate probably died because they kept them saddled and bridled and just slapped their asses and had them run off. Maybe they actually walked to that Waygate. Maybe that took like a week.
Well, I was going to say, it would have to be probably a month. I was going to say maybe Perrin remembered all the horses they left saddled and decided to go and track them down and free them so they don't die.
There's a Mandark comment that I could make, but I'm saving that for later. Anyways, yeah, Alana, like, oh my god, yeah, Alana, apparently here, apparently knows Perrin. No, they don't, and it's done. All right, now we're back into the White Tower, and Elida has to tell the Queen that the sisters are being very tight-lipped, and I'm like, what the fuck? Elida has absolutely no ally who would basically explain what actually happened in the tower. The big, like, why is Elida not being like, hey, why is half the hall dead? Why are all these warders I used to know? Why are they all dead? Why was the tower on fire? No eyes and ears or nothing. But anyways, she was able to figure out the one thing, though, is that Leandrin was a dark friend, or there was a dark friend in the tower. And then the Queen says, Swan told me as much. And I was like, no, because I went back and listened, and that's the one thing she didn't say.
Yeah.
These people don't even read what had been written in the other scenes. But it gets worse, as it always does. So Elida acts very nosy, and then Varen, Leanne, and Swan don't like her, and then they bring up Min. And here are a couple of problems I'm having right now that I think about it. Why is Varen trusted by the... I should have brought this up in the previous episode too, but why is Varen being trusted by Swan at all? Because Varen is the one that helped Moron bust Rand out of Kyrian.
Excellent question.
Leanne was the one that Varen tricked.
Yes. And the Varen should be as wanted as Leandrin.
If not more so. She did something that's like technically more evil. And Min. Why is Min back? Because the one thing we know about Min is that she had an outstanding deal with the Forsaken, and that was about the crux of her character. The Aes Sedai that she knew were Moron, who's persona non grata in the tower, Leandrin, who's now the fugitive, right? Leandrin had her imprisoned. Plus, if you really interrogate her, she was on a first-name basis with Ishamael. Why is she all of a sudden Swan, Varen, and Leanne's agent in any of this?
It is wild to me, and I am convinced that there are only book readers left watching this show. Because if you are not a book reader, this is an insane decision. Like, this is broken beyond reason. She should be in the dungeon, back in the dungeon.
In the oubliette, in the dungeon where it was like a hole that you threw people down and they couldn't get out, and you couldn't get them out because it was that deep, and they only survived because that's where you threw your chicken bones.
Yeah.
Oh, fucking Min. All right. And somehow her outfits keep getting worse. I don't know how they do this, but her haircuts and her outfits keep getting worse. She looks like Katie Lang now. So we had Kim Jong-min or Min Jong-un, but now we've got Katie Min to kind of add to this. But yeah, so, but what they're doing here is they're setting up the coup, the tower coup. So we had 11 minutes of shredding scene. We're probably going to get a second one. Just what we wanted, right? More lady wizards fighting. Oh God.
Can't wait.
All right. And somehow it gets worse in the next scene. So this one starts off and you think that Matt actually has a chick with both hands wrapped around his penis, but it's really around the horn of Valyr. Way to subvert my expectations with that, you dumb fucking show. So yeah, Clara was about to blow Matt's horn. Yay, sex puns. But it turns out that the girls don't give a hoot about Rand's horn or Matt's horn, and they're going to cuck him to Galad and Gowan, at least subtly here and more overtly in a later scene. Go ahead, Alex.
It is wild to me that they've decided Matt is a loser. Like, of all the choices to make, Why is Matt a loser?
If you wanted to show him in like a situation where he's just wait for the Thailand shit to happen in book 7, right? He gets taken down a peg enough in the story as written. You don't need to do this to him. Anyways, the Galad and Gawain fight scene is the same one that was released, and it's kind of stupid. There's a lot of flips, and there's some pocket sand, and it's pretty gay. And then another piece of modern slang that shouldn't be in a fantasy show. Matt calls them tossers, which is 1970s English slang that would not exist in this world. So yay, good for you guys. All right, so this is what I call this scene here is the Black Ajah Hunter scene. This is Uncanny Valley for me in that I went back and checked, but this is a lot of the dialogue here is lifted directly from the books. So good job for that. Like you got your boat and a stub or whatever sticking out, and you could run aground. All those types of analogies straight from the books. But it's just not there, right? It's just at that 90% where you like see the robot's human-like face and you just get fucking freaked out by it because it's so close but no cigar. That's what's happening here. And I think I've isolated the problem I have with this scene is that in the books, Varen, it was said like, if there's someone you can trust Varen. I trust her more than I should already. So Swan's saying, if I'm in for a penny, I'm in for a pound with Varen. In this scene, it starts off with like, I can't trust anyone, not even Varen. And it ends with, all right, now that you're my hounds, go see Varen for all the information you need for your assignment. What? You two are going to be my hounds because I can't trust Varen. Now go ask Varen for everything that you need to do your job. Which, if you didn't trust Varen, why would Varen be informed about it? Like it's not a good plan. It's not a good plan.
My confusion here is from a political standpoint. You're sending Morghase's daughter.
I'm glad you bring this up. So in the books, this scene does not involve Elaine. Elaine is explicitly cut out from her scheme to have Black Ajah hunters, but Swan knew that Egwene and Nynaeve would bring Elaine into it. But because if Swan was ever confronted by Morghase, because they had their little brouhaha before the letters were sent back and forth, she could state without lying that she did not assign Elaine to do this, especially when she knew that they were going to flee the tower again. So in the books, Swan is being politically astute, playing within the rules and her own limitations, and it's smart. Here, you're right. If you wanted Morghase to just take her daughter away even harder, just do this. Like it doesn't make any frickin' sense. Uncanny Valley. It's just a subtle change, but it makes all the difference. The same thing with Varen. It's a subtle difference, right? If you can't trust anyone, you might as well trust her because I trust her too much. Versus them merging Sherry and Varen in this and saying I can't trust Varen, and that's the reason I'm taking you on. The other thing that's super weird from this too is Swan basically hints that Liandrin is wet for Nynaeve. So you could have that advantage as well. If you ever confront her, you're probably more than a match for strength, but she also probably wants to lick your clam. So exploit that weakness.
It is. Of all the, am I crazy for thinking that like they think that this Liandrin Nynaeve thing they did last season was like interesting to people and they think it worked, and it was just like not at all.
It was such a huge hit season 2 that of course they're doubling down on it, but anyways, yeah, the girls said the Amerlin wasn't telling the whole truth. It just makes the audience more suspicious of Varen. Nynaeve wants to go off hunting Liandrin and root out. What am I? Whatever. I was drunk when I wrote these notes, and now I'm drunk reading them, and I have no idea what I'm trying to say. Okay, we're back to Merrin telling what has happened. So this is a constant feature of the show where they're telling, not showing. So after Merrin tells that the White Cloaks are in the Two Rivers, and after Perrin asks, after me? Yeah, dude, because you fucking axed the Lord Captain in the chest because he killed a dog. No shit, they're after you. Try that out. If your dog gets killed by law enforcement and you go kill the fucking police chief with an axe, they're going to be looking for you. The FBI is going to be knocking down everywhere. Like, I can't. Oh, God. All right. So, yeah. But then Alana has to remind him he killed Jeff from Bornhold. All right. I get the definite vibe that they're just using Perrin's whole arc here to be a vehicle for Maxim, which is just awful.
100%.
Yeah. Perrin asks if Alana and Maxim use the ways, which is backed up by the fact that he found their tracks and smelt their ash scent, and that Nynaeve told them what happened about Alana and Maxim and Ivan. And sure, what? Yeah, fill that in because we already pointed out the flaws in the previous scene. So it's just nothing but telling. We've got no indication how long they've been here. It's even asked, and then they don't answer the question. How long have you been fighting the Trollocs here? They don't even answer. And then Perrin decides he's going to turn himself in, and there's no emotional impact to this. Good. You're a fugitive on the run. You're actually guilty. You should go and hang. Whatever.
Right? Like, yeah. And yes, correct. You should go to prison. Like,
maybe they'll only give you 25 years. Yeah. All right, so let's cut now to Egwene getting abused by Lanfear. We find out it's Lanfear later in like these clips, but I highlighted the pretty gross part where you've got Rhenna bleeding into her mouth, and it's kind of gross. Rand is then cuddling with Lanfear. That's kind of over here, so she's in two places at once, it seems, but whatever. Rand says he was foreseeing his whole life in the Foregate, and I'm like, what? He was just going to stay. I thought he was in Kyrian for like a mission to like break into the Logain level. If only he got killed the right nurse and then got the special wine, and that he could learn his power up in 37 seconds, and then he was going to do something else. Now he's saying, no, he's going to live his whole life in the Foregate. So that's kind of dumb. And then from this, we go back, cut to Egwene getting tortured, and then she like screams a little bit, and she ends up in the Eye of Waste, and suddenly Egwene is a Dreamwalker. Like, you couldn't have built that up in the previous season at all. You remember how like Egwene comes to the tower and she starts seeing visions or whatever on the boat down, and Anaya is suggesting already at this point that she might have dreaming powers. Like, oh nope. Okay.
Well, I was going to pose the question. Are we 100% sure that we didn't need to do this earlier? Like, we don't think we're missing out on some story impact by telling somebody that they need to come to the Waste when they're 90% of the way through their journey to the Waste. Like, didn't need to work that in.
She was already on her way. She was already going with Rand. She didn't need a second reason for going there. That's a very astute point. Well played. Anyways, Egwene's getting choked out, and then she wakes up, and then Rand says it's okay. So fuck this show. There's another modern day cloak. Whenever there's a fantasy show and they say okay, I flip my lid. I did it with the sandwiches. I'm fucking doing it with the steam power reference. I'm doing it with the others. Any modern colloquialisms that bleed into fantasy, I can't abide it. I just fucking despise it. You're not allowed to say, it's not okay to say okay in a fantasy show. Just saying it. And then like Rand comforts Egwene, even though he was like 5 seconds ago ready to slip his dick into Lanfear. So well done, show.
I mean, in fairness, he pretty much did just get molested there. So,
and he probably has a month's worth of blue balls. So I'm not going to be too hard on my man Rand. It's okay. All right. So Matt is here. He's in the tower, and now he's getting cucked for sure by Gallatin and Gawain because we hear the sex noises to either side. Min shows up, which is what we all wanted to see. So he opens the door thinking he's finally going to get laid and Claire is going to suck his dick. But no, it's Min, and his boner immediately dies. Their banter as they go back and forth is just awful. And it's like, why is Matt upset that Min came from Swan? Oh, he says, yeah, I know you're upset with me because I sold you out to the fucking Forsaken.
This show acting like Matt is in the wrong here is fucking wild.
I know. How is any of this Matt? He's the one that apologizes sincerely by the end of these fucking episodes. I'm like, Matt, dude, why don't you just go up to the Amerlin and say, hey, you know, she sold me out to Shamiel. Shamiel promised to take away your visit. She took him up on that. And it's, why did you think that Shamiel would or could do what? Anyways, that's in a later scene. But oh my God. So Matt has to bring his stupid fucking horn that he just left on the stupid table that no one's out there trying to steal as a lazy fucking prop and go see the Amerlin. Okay, it gets dumber. And I'm a third of the way through. This is gonna be a long ass fucking stream, guys. All right. So Elaine puts on the rose crown. I think it's backwards. Maybe it's not. Then she decides to chat with Ravin and they start drinking. Aside from the dumb shit in his ear, this is not the worst thing ever, this conversation. It seems like he's a complete master of compulsion. And if he is, why is he playing this bit? The other thing that's just completely nuts about this, the first positive father figure we've seen in this entire show, and it happens to be the fucking Forsaken.
Right?
Just absolutely insane. Anyways, they laugh about her brothers nailing the novices. That's always funny. Gabriel mentions unrest in Andor and that Gareth Bryn has been dismissed and the people are up having an uprising. And they're both alcoholics. So hooray. I can empathize.
It's just the characterization, if nothing else.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah. So we get this stupid scene. So this is the Swan berating Matt scene. So Matt comes to her, not her to him, like in the books. It's a subtle thing, but it makes a world of difference. Matt stands up and tries to be all boastful, and he calls himself the Hornblower. Maybe I haven't mentioned it on a stream yet, but like it should be Horn Sounder, not Hornblower, because Hornblower is a C.S. Forster series about an English Navy officer who rises from midshipman to admiral. It's like quite good books, but anyway, not Hornblower, Horn Sounder. That's how it is in the books. So he says, I'm the Hornblower. Then Swan offers him a seat, which he takes. And then Swan literally says, I understand you blew the horn of Valir. And what I wanted to say was like, yeah, bitch, he said that 5 seconds ago.
Right. This entire like episode struggles very much from like they tried really hard to pull scenes from the books and it just doesn't work in the confines, nor does updating them for a modern audience work. Like you can't just make Matt a fucking retard so that Swan can dress him down for being a retard so that she can then give the speech about how he reminds her of her cousin or whatever the fuck.
Who wasn't retarded.
Right.
Right? So what we all said about the previous episode of Matt being, all the boys being so incredibly stupid, coming to Tarvalon and having your picture taken, like Swan even mentions that. It's like, oh, well, you know, you're linked to the horn, and if someone wanted the horn, they'd have to kill you or else it'd just be a regular horn. And you could see like, ooh, okay. Now, Matt in the books didn't want to be known to be associated with the horn at all. Ever. About anything. And he was coy about it. And what, but here, no, he is so like, no, I would never have gotten my picture done or whatever. So we knew he was being stupid in the last episode, and now you've got Swan berating him for being this stupid. So they only basically had him stupid in the last episode so Swan could call him out for being stupid. So, yay, good job. And then the my Uncle Juan speech, that had nothing to do with about stupidity. It had about Matt's apparent reluctance to want to be do as he's told, right? and this is an important character trait for Matt and all the Two Rivers people. Great quote I once heard. Some people, you can't, you can, what is it?
You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink.
Yeah, you can, but this was, you can lead someone into hell, but you can't push them into heaven. That's a different one that they said. So you can't push them into heaven, even if it's going the right direction. If you're pushing, or you're basically, they'll dig their heels in, they'll be that stubborn. But you can lead them if you could convince them about the rightly or wrongly of whatever you want. You could lead them into hell. You can't push them into heaven. That's the stubbornness exhibited by Two Rivers characters, and that's what the Juan speech, if anything, is trying to establish with Matt. It's like, my uncle didn't want to do an honest day's work or whatever. You couldn't get him to do this, couldn't get him to do that. But at the end of the day, when the fucking chips were down, he was there. And that's a very good moment for characterization for Matt in the books. Here, it's just completely out of place. Because why would you think that about Matt? Reminds you of your uncle. When did your uncle find the fucking Horn of Valir and get like his picture done with it like a retard? God.
Or like, why would Sawan think that Matt is like this guy who's good when Matt has proven consistently that he's not?
I know. So Matt says he's no hero. That's how they end this frickin' scene. He was calling himself a hero to everyone that would listen in the previous episode. At least in the books, Matt was consistently, I'm not a bloody hero. Saying it out loud and to himself, but proving that wrong through his actions to the audience. And that's why we like him. Okay, back to this. So the queen comes back to the room with Elaine and Ravine. There's a lot more telling and not showing. Too far. So in this scene, what's completely crazy about this one is Elaine gets up and defends her position that she wants to stay in the tower, and she drops. And remember, Morghese has only known that there was one dark friend and not a big brouhaha in the tower and explosions or whatnot, and that maybe she got kidnapped out of the tower or whatnot. Now Elaine drops, oh, by the way, yeah, I left the tower and then I went to fight a fucking Forsaken. So there's one thing. I healed the Dragon Reborn. We're on a first name basis, by the way, if you don't know. And fuck you and your plan. I'm going to stay here and I'm going to root out dark friends in the tower. And what? And Morghese doesn't react to any of that.
No.
So when you think about what does she know to this point and what is she now learning in this conversation, she would lose her fucking mind. Wait a second. You fought the Forsaken. You were in the same city as one even. That just escalates it to a whole new level. The Dragon Reborn. That again, I'm pretty sure there's lines in the books where it's like that she's uncomfortable that the Dragon Reborn even knows Elaine's name, let alone that they've actually talked. Right. That's a serious danger for her. And that she's decided to stay in what Swan called the safest place in the world in order to hunt dark friends. That there's no reaction to this, and that the reaction ultimately at the end of this, it's like, Mother, I need to forge my own way. And then Morghese goes, how are you so wise?
This is one of those things that this reads like bad Harry Potter fan fiction, where it's like, yes, Hogwarts is the safest place in all the world. And it's like, really? Well, we have 6 books of track record that says it's not. So, that's an issue. The only thing I can even come close to like defending this is like, unless Robin's compulsion has just fried Morghese's brain.
They've fried them both, but
yeah. There's another great bit in here where Elaine says, or Morghese says something like, Tigraine ran off. She was the last daughter heir of Andor. And Elaine says, well, yeah, but it's only because Tigraine ran off that you became queen. And I'm just sitting here like, are you retarded? That's an argument against your point. Like,
There's other shit too, like that's mentioned in this being like, didn't we say that like if I was an Aes Sedai and a queen, that would be a strategic advantage? And I'm just like, Lane, you might want to tone that down a bit because you'll only be queen if your mom's dead. So I don't think she cares that much about that scenario. Like, maybe that's for like 40 years from now, but like I wouldn't be like suggesting, hey, in 5 years, can I be queen and Aes Sedai? And I don't know. It's dumb. Okay, so we're back to Moron and I Want to Die. So Rand is training with Lan. He says because Lan listens to him.
Dude.
I know. So Moron is a bitch, and then Moron is telling him about channeling, and then Moron sees Rand channel, and there's something about Rand being thirsty, so this is a pure thirst trap scene. And he gets, this is Uncanny Valley again, he gets 90% of the way there, talking about Saidin being like a pond of fresh water, and he's dying of thirst, and he wants to reach it and drink it. But instead of doing the pond scum analogy, that there's a taint over top the layer, and the only way to reach the water is to go through the filth, and that it fills his life with sweetness and whatever, but also the corruption and vileness. It turns into a bittersweet metaphor, which, it's just so close, and it's just like, it's so awful.
Well, yeah, way to miss the point.
And anyways, I'm giving them 0 points for that. Like, I award you no points, and may God have mercy on your soul, writers. All right. So now we're into this whole haul sending Morghese off back home. It's decided that Elaine is staying, but so is Galad, Gowan, and Elida. Womp, womp, womp. So you could see Morghese's heart just sink when she realizes Elida is staying in the tower, because yay. When Morghese says that Galad and Gawain are staying, then the Amyrlin quips, I'm not sure the novices will ever recover. So, yay, sex. Novices are like 14 years old, right? That's gross.
I mean, even if we say that they're all adults, like, you still don't want two princes impregnating the entire tower. Like,
okay, so they're back to being more bitchy to each other in public than they were in private, and then Morghese threatens Swan with war if anything happens to Elaine, which, you know, Morghese, Elaine's basically said she's going to be hunting the Black Ajah in the tower, so good on you. Great parenting. We get to the last scene of this, so there's more hiking and Saidin songs. The Aiel show up, including... Didn't Tom Marilyn in the first episode say, like, outside of, like, the Aiel, like, the only way to tell someone from where they're from is, like, by their clothing? But, like, that hair and that color, like, that's Aiel, and it's just, like, apparently not. Anyways, that is a pretty black Aiel. Anyways, so Avienda's upset that apparently someone... Go ahead.
I was going to ask, and I think you were heading there as well. Did you get the impression there was supposed to be a Shido fight here? Because Avienda is flipping out, and it's just Ruark. Like, you know, he's basically the governor. Like, why is she losing her mind?
I don't know. It's out of place. What's also weird too is that Lan seems completely off guard that all these Aiel show up from nowhere, and it's not like they look like they're adept at sneaking around. And the Aiel, as they walk out, it looks like these people had never been out in the wild before in their lives, and they dressed up in Aiel costumes and went to look threatening. Like, it's just me. Anyways, so after this, so they arrive at the waste, and it seems to be more about Egwene than it is about Rand, because you have, I think this is Bear, not Amis, shows up, and it's the woman from Egwene's vision. And whatever. All right. I hate this so much. I put this in here because I need to switch now to my episode 3 notes, which I put in a different file. So now that I've done that, I can skip to the next slide. Yay. Oh, okay. So we've got the.
I guess real quick, since we're talking about episode 2.
Yeah, I can go back one.
Approximately what percentage of this episode was two middle-aged women talking to each other? Because
38.
when I make these videos, I kind of break them down by scene, and I kind of give each scene a title.
Is Min middle-aged? Yeah, Min's middle-aged. She's middle-aged.
Min's middle-aged.
Min's middle-aged. Let me go. Fuck me. All right. So the opening scene, yeah, that's the only woman talking is Morghese. She's middle-aged. Elaine overhears two middle-aged women conspiring in the hallway. Then they talk to her. So there's some of that. Then there's some walking and talking. Two Rivers Waygates. That's not it. The family reunion, no. Matt getting his MRI, no, not really. The whole scene of Swan and Morghese talking to each other in the hallways, that's two middle-aged women. When all the women are at the sword fight.
No.
Yeah.
But there's a scene of there's Elida and Morghese, there's Swan and Morghese twice. There's Swan and Varen and Leanne at least once.
And Min, yeah. I think the middle-aged women are more in episode 3, in large part because episode 3 has a lot more Elida in it. And when Elida's talking to other Aes Sedai back, like that is the middle-aged women episode to shine. So shall we get to it?
Go for it.
All right. If we can do this in an hour, then we've basically achieved my goal, which is keeping this kind of at 2 hours. So let's fucking rock and roll. Forsaken scene to start out with. So the first thing that I noted was that Lanfear is the tall one. All right. Samael shows up. Samael shows up in his bone armor. We see this bone armor in a later clip as well. So he shows up in the waist, I think. Lanfear is wearing parachute pants. Oh, it went too far. Apparently, Ravine has used compulsion on everyone in Andor and the White Tower, and that's why everyone knows him.
Yes.
Being Lord Gabriel has been around for 10 years. So he's Professor X. He's the mule from Foundation. He's Kilgrave. He's got the most insanely overpowered mind control powers that I've ever fucking heard. There are limitations to compulsion in the books, right? If you use it too much, the people you use it on turn into fucking zombies, right? You wreck their mind. And the effort and the delicacy and the skill involved in basically doing it, it's not something that you can do that simply and do it to everyone. And more to the point, if this is his power, if Ravine can actually achieve this, how is this his plan? How is being the prince consort to a queen your plan? Why are you convincing everyone that you've been fucking Morghese for 10 years when you could just as easily convince everyone you've been fucking God Emperor of the planet for 10 years?
Correct. Like the power scaling is so broken here. If Lanfear can teach Rand this, we don't have to do the middle portion of the books. He can just go around compulsing everybody into believing that he's the Messiah.
It's nuts. So
it's so bad.
Anyway, I was also a little bit upset that Samael's not actually a dwarf. He's kind of a quasi dwarf. He's a short man. But I took some heart in some comments earlier today. It could just be that Samael is a dwarf and he's just wearing the Mask of Mirrors. And when he meets Tiny Sedai, his love interest, obviously, for the show, he will let his mask slip, figuratively and literally, and through the bonds of love, get revealed to be the dwarf that he is. That's another prediction that I'm making. You'll note that most of my predictions for the rest of the show are involving Tiny Sedai. I don't know why. Maybe she swallowed a fly. Perhaps she'll die. All right. So noting, anyways, Lanfear always called Rand Lewis Theron, not whatever this is. All the Forsaken have their sling rings. And now this is what's fucking wild about this scene too. So everything else aside, I thought from the season 2 finale that Moghedion was the most powerful of the Forsaken. right? That's the only reason to explain why Lanfear had such fear and desperately wanted Bail Doman to like take all the seals and dump them in the ocean so that they could never get broken. And she's absolutely terrified at the ending when Moghedien captures her, and like she even like seems relieved to have escaped that alive, and then prays for Randall Thor. Now it's being established that Moghedien is the weakest of the 7 Forsaken that are left. And because Moghedien is the weakest, Moghedien is going to come after each of them one by one to try and pick them off, because there's no way she can be nameless unless no one else is left. Is this making any sense to anybody?
Sure, fuck it, why not?
All right, moving on. Moghedien's stupid.
And knowing that Moghedien would be coming after them, why would you free Moghedien? Is she just retarded?
Yeah, probably. He was a gentle soul, though. He only saw the good in people, especially Trollocs. All right, so the Supergirls. Yeah, fuck. How far? Okay. So the Supergirls get assigned to interrogate Amico and Joya, who are the captured Black Sisters. They've been stilled, apparently. They've been captured at great cost, though I didn't really. The cost that I could see was a bell tower, which was fine, didn't hurt anybody. But now they're stilled, and they're not crying or losing weight or anything like that. And they get the bright idea, these two, that you can threaten them with death, and now they're going to talk. Because there's nothing that stilled people want more than to stay alive, right? Yeah.
Well, are they stilled or are they shielded?
No, they're stilled in the books here, or not the. They're stilled here. They haven't been stilled in the books because they need to go back for a trial. They've just been shielded, I think, the whole time because whatever. But it's established that they've already had their trials. They've been stilled. Now they're trying to get info out of them. But you can't really threaten a stilled person with death when all they want to do is die. So, yeah. Anyways, this scene gets even dumber because Nynaeve and Elaine tell Varen that they have an advantage, which is that they can lie and Aes Sedai can't. So that's going to be their first interrogation advantage. The second advantage is the bright idea that these two need to be questioned separately, which is implying that the Aes Sedai didn't do that already.
I said on Twitter today that this episode is amazing because it's terrible at so many things. It's a terrible CSI episode. It's a terrible political episode. It's a terrible kung fu episode. It's a terrible fantasy episode. It's bad across multiple genres of television. It's pretty amazing.
So Amico lays out, that's the pork chops that eye down here. She hasn't been losing any weight in prison either. She mentions the heart concept that you only know 2 others, like you're in a group of 3. 2 others within your heart, and then like a third who's out, and Leandrin was hers. There's an egregious amount of girl boss poses in these short little clips. And then Joya says you can't trust anything that Amico says because she's a Black Ajah. Basically the same thing.
I did notice that.
She's just like, you can't trust what she says. She's been black for years. She tried to heal people and lie to them the whole time, and then at the very end they die. It's like, okay, well, should I believe? And then she goes on to say, I'm a gray Ajah. We negotiate. We read people. You can believe what I say because I know a killer when I see one. And she's looking right at Nynaeve when she says that, and I'm just like, wow, racist much? Holy shit. Anyways, another racist joke on the White Cloaks. Okay. So Elida has got the shakes from her decades of alcohol abuse. Perhaps she had a foretelling. And then Min shows up in her ridiculous suit. Cut back to these 2 idiots. They're walking through the city. They have 2 destinations that they could potentially investigate. One of them is Saldaea. The other one is Tyr. They decide instead to focus on Leandrin. So Nynaeve is taking them to Leandrin's place in North Harbor. Oh, and there's a gray man in the background. Ooh, scary.
Ooh.
And then we find this fucking thing on the floor. Oh my God.
The decision to introduce this with no setup at all is just wild. Like, has Leandrin
Under the
given
bed.
any indication that she is religious in any way?
No. Has she given any indication that she would prioritize this death ritual for her 100-year-old son, the tragedy that was, over the mission she was assigned by the Black Ajah? Why do they, or the, by a Forsaken potential, why is she doing this? She busted all the Black Ajah out, revealed herself to everyone, and it's purely to go paint a fucking glyph in Tanchico?
Yeah. We're getting comments in the chat of people asking what this is. So
not from the books at all.
So remember Leandrin's 100-year-old kid? Well, apparently Leandrin is such a devout practitioner of Tanchico's native religion.
Pirate voodoo.
In Tanchico's native voodoo pirate shit, you had to paint this symbol of a dead person at the spot where they died and the spot that they were born. And her feverish devotion to this religion, despite being a dark friend, is how Nynaeve and Elaine are able to track her down, because had she not left this symbol here while scouring this room of all other evidence, they never would have found Leandrin.
It's not like you could figure out where she was from by the her name, potentially, or in the books how she's described as having blonde hair, brown eyes, and the hair in braids. That's very Tanchico in the books. Or check the fucking records. Like, the White Tower doesn't know where their novices come from. If there's a fucking flashback episode with a young Leandrin and like a Karenni Sedai, which I think is what's going to happen, and it's not known there that she was like rescued from Tanchico, there's no excuse for that. Why do they need to figure out from fucking this that she went to Tanchico when they could have just looked to see where she was originally from? This is nuts. This is nuts.
Well, Dan, I have good news for you. We have confirmed we have young Leandrin's actor in not one but 2 episodes.
We've got Karenni coming back, and since she's dead, that's got to be a flashback.
We got fucking Shrek Sedai coming back.
Yeah, not Stepan. Stepan's too young, but Karenni's going to be there, and she's probably the one who rescues Leandrin. If I'm making up dumb.
Let's fucking.
If I'm making up dumb shit, yeah, okay, all right. So that whole scene was dumb. Oh, before we go off of that one though, like Nynaeve has to say, Leandrin was trying to turn me to the dark, but she also helped me. So Nynaeve is still conflicted about Leandrin.
Citation needed. Please cite one example of Leandrin helping you. You still can't channel, so it clearly wasn't that. Was it the enslavement?
Probably, or the giving you to enslavement only to like kind of let you go free. Like, I don't know. That's retarded. So, anyways, Elida here is trying to crash the Amerlin study, and Leanne and Varen stop her. So this is again more women talking in hallways. You talked earlier about how many scenes of like middle-aged women talking. Here's a long one. This was so boring I didn't actually take a whole lot of notes in it. But Varen's just straight up making shit up. Every woman is allowed to request an audience at the Amerlin, not just sitters. So whatever. Jesus Christ. Let's get to some more women talking in hallways. So now we've got Elida going to scheme with the Reds. These women are enormously bitchy to each other, even though they shouldn't be because they're in the same Ajah. None of this is likable from either side. So Elida brings strawberries and some gaudy jewelry, and then Sutama rejects the jewelry and says, "This is too gaudy for me. Maybe you'll like it," and like gives the gift back. And then Elida decides to leave and then points out that the red sitters, as they are, just worthless pushovers. So yeah, female politics. Here's one thing that I will say, okay? Just I like the Wheel of Time because it really sticks to the central theme throughout all the books that stuff only works well when it's men and women working together. When all the men are in isolation, shit goes bad. They get into wars and fights and just horror stories and stuff. When all the women are alone, their political systems are completely nuts. It's only when men and women are working together that anything kind of functions properly as it should in the Wheel of Time. And that's in part how I've convinced myself to enjoy all those Aes Sedai politics chapters, all the Egwene chapters of her dealing with Ramonda and Lelaine, all the chapters of her in the tower and dealing with all this fucking Aes Sedai politics and how dysfunctional it is. How the Aes Sedai political system being so fucking stupid that Swan got deposed with a minimum seating of the hall, the like minimum quorum, and the Amerlin wasn't informed, and other sitters who were in the hall weren't informed, and they used that as justification to run a coup d'etat. It's like, who the fuck wrote your constitution? Like, how dumb is your political system? I can appreciate it because it actually makes sense that if women ran a political system to the exclusion of men, it would be this retarded. The one thing the show is doing better than the books is showing just how stupid a female-only political system would actually function. And that's what we just saw in the last scene. So
we tip our hats.
And we have another sip of wine. All right, so we're in the fucking waste. There's some talking about who the wise ones are, and I'm like, what? There's one walking with you. What? She even like speaks up when you mention that. Like, oh my God, this is so dumb. So, and it happens to be the one, Egwene, that like recognized you in your dream. So good job there. And then Moron continues being a moron. These Aiel run around like they're idiots and have never been outside in their lives. Ruark is a fat guy. They run into a bunch of dead tinkers. So that is here. So they find the wagons. There's a bunch of dead tinkers all over the place. They say like it's not forbidden to harm the lost ones. The Aiel just avoid them and leave them alone because they despise them. And then there's a really dumb line that Avienda says, I think. The only thing with less honor than refusing to defend yourself is killing someone that refuses to defend themselves. That makes no sense. Because a Gaishain wouldn't defend themselves, right? They're forbidden to touch weapons. You wouldn't harm them, but you wouldn't think that a Gaishain is dishonorable for not trying to defend themselves. Like it. There's people, it's uncanny valley. It's people who kind of get it, but they just don't quite get it, and it just ends up being so much worse. Then Lan says that there's a spear wound meant to look like a sword wound. Oh, too far. And I'm like, you put one of those Aiel spears next to a sword, and how can you tell that it would be anyways? It's stupid. They're the same thing. They're establishing here the Shido are the bad Aiel, and then Ruark decides to stay behind and bury the Tinkers. And I'm like, what? What? Why would he do that? Aiel despise the Tinkers. They don't care. So anyways, he's going to pile rocks on them rather than do the 6-inch graves. So maybe he gets done in time. But everyone else goes on to Ruidian. Ruark is now separated from the group. Hopefully this does not become a plot point because it was stupid. Oh, all right. I think this is the worst scene in this episode. What are your thoughts before we dive into it? Do you know why I think it's the worst scene?
I mean, it's basically just disrespectful.
Yeah.
But I mean, as far as it being the worst scene, honestly, the Leandrin ripping the guy's heart out with her bare hands without.
Oh, we haven't even gotten there yet. All right, fuck me. All right. So Perrin is putting his ring under the tree where his wife was sprouted from. So what's new is that all the Ibaras are buried with a seed in their hand, and they grow trees. It's not fully how it is in the books, and moreover, this looks like halfway up the mountain. Exactly. Halfway up the mountain, not like some orchard by a farm. So whatever. But I appreciate that they actually have like these apple blossom trees in the middle. It looks pretty here. But what they then do with it, right? So Perrin's family is not dead. They got escaped or evacuated by Tam and Abel, and that's why and Bran. So that's why he's not there either. Big character that he was in the first fucking season. But that they then use this as a vehicle for Alana to cry about her throuple that got broken. This is insane.
It is absolutely wild.
You're taking the apex emotional moment from the book. I challenge you to find like a more emotionally impactful moment from the entire, maybe Veins of Gold in the Gathering Storm. Maybe that's at the climax of that, as far as the emotional impact when you're reading it. But other than that, there's nothing like when Perrin is back at the Abara farm, visiting the graves of his entire family, and Loyal being there and offering to sing to the tree to help it grow bigger and strong. It's so sad. And they took a beautiful moment and they used it to educate the rest of us about how a throuple feels when one of the two guys that's DPing this chick dies.
Yep.
How do you fill the hole that's inside of me? Maybe find a dick for your ass. Fuck this show. Seriously. This offended me. It gets worse. Anyway, these maidens are now playing like Maiden's Kiss with Loyal. Like the joke about Maiden's Kiss was that they'd find an idiot to ask the maidens to play it, and then he'd all of a sudden have a dozen spears around his neck. Now it's like these are horny women, and they want to play it 2-on-1 versus a fucking ogre who'd split them in half if he was proper size. But anyways, just a vehicle for Maxim. They only included this fucking scene so Maxim could have some retort, being like, what makes you think that you're my first time? Ha ha ha. So you fuck men and women. Gross, sick fuck. Anyways. Then, anyways, where am I going? Luke shows up with Fail. Rand's uncle, right? The spitting image of him. I'd never pictured Lord Luke like this. Like he looks like he's fucking off the set of There Will Be Blood. And Daniel Plainview.
I was going to say Peaky Blinders, but
Daniel Plainview just like dismissed him from the oil rig, and he's got to go out here now. And yeah, Fail. I'm sorry, I have that hoodie. Good God, this is well done casting. It's terrible. All right, finally, how long? We're an hour and 22 minutes into the stream, and finally the hero shows up. God, this is taking too damn long. So Dain is drinking his righteous brandy. So he's here with full justification, being that his father was axed by a dog killer. No, wait. His father was a dog killer, but that's not too bad of a crime, especially if the dog is attacking a friend of yours. So, I don't know. Somebody's pit bull attacks my friend and I kill the dog, and then I get killed for killing it. I'd be saying, yeah, that's still murder one. I don't know.
100%.
Anyways, so Dain is drinking his righteous brandy. There's a lot of kids in the White Cloak camp. That's the one creepy thing about this that I don't know why that was a creative decision. With a whole bunch of ethnically diverse serving boys, it's fucking weird. My question, did Dain ever learn Perrin's name? Because he just called him Two Rivers the whole fucking time.
I think he did. I think they were introduced, but man, I'd have to go back and check.
Nobody wants to do that. Maybe someone in chat is autistic enough to remember. I don't think that they actually knew his name, but since you were able to recognize by the metalwork on his stupid fucking ring where he came from in the whole wide world, all right, you came to the right spot. So okay, you figured it out. And then there's some poisonous fruit line, and I'm like, all right, what are we in the Bible now? Whatever. That's enough for me right now. So now, let's get back to this. This fucking scene. So Matt is having trauma from his memories. Min shows up again, which is just what we wanted to see. She says, if you don't like it, call management. So I hate this frickin' modern banter. Min calls him a prick. So fuck you, Min. Fuck you and all your fucking modern pejoratives. And then Min here laments that this is really, she's like, I gave up my deal with the literal devil, who is going to take away the only one special thing about me. And Matt doesn't reply to her, being like, what makes you think that the literal devil would have honored his deal with you?
Right?
Or could have. Have you read Goethe? Have you read, Dr. Have you read anything of like, oh, probably hasn't, but fuck, the rest of the world has. You don't make deals with the devil and expect that it could be done. But out of this becomes like Min storms off out of the room, doesn't slam the door or anything, and then Matt is like, oh, I fucked that up. And that's what motivates him to apologize later. It's insane. Back to the Supergirls. So Nynaeve and Elaine are doing more research in the tower because they found a clue. And it's like the Hardley boys, right? Oh, I've got a clue over here. Oh, I've even got a bigger clue. Oh, let's follow your clue. So that's what they are. They're following their clues. They open a book. It looks kind of like it's in the old tongue, but who fucking cares? If they're spending detail on that, whatever. You got a prop guy making tomes look like they fit in the world with old tongue text throughout, but you didn't have a fucking script supervisor. I'm saying, like, this is not money well spent.
Not at all.
So they go through their made-up death ritual about the glyphs that we discussed ad nauseum about, like, you got to do one here where they died and one where they lived, and that clues them in they got to go to Tanchico. So it did clue them in that, she was from Terabon, for fuck's sake. And then they clue in, like, well, Terabon, Tanchico, that's not where Amico or Joya said we should go. What else didn't they talk about? They didn't talk about all the stuff Tiny Sedai stole. Let's look at some sketches of that. And then they go, this thing looks like an IDOM. And that stuff looks like it's from Terabon, which is where the Shanchan come from. And I'm like, what? They literally say the Shanchan came from Terabon centuries ago, or from Tanchico. And I'm floored, because that's not it, and it's wrong. And are they turning the Shanchan into like a pirate force that set sail from Pirate City and like lived on pirate islands and is now coming back? Like, they're not doing the whole Arthur Hawkwing army's return. I don't know. I'd have to look back and see what they've established about the Shanchan, but I don't want to. But I do know they've like they skipped a whole lot of it. Sorry, go ahead.
I said, were they saying that Tanchico is where they landed, like where the fleet landed? Like, that doesn't make sense, but it makes more sense.
They said they landed at Thalm, which is not far from Tanchico, which is where they came from centuries ago.
Sure, fuck it, why not?
Fuck it, why not? Maybe that explains some of the stupid fucking haircuts Leandrin and her friends have when they go to Terabon, go to Tanchico. And it's so dumb. Anyway, so they look at the stolen items, and from that they realize that they took half of an IDOM. Maybe we find out later, because we know the books, that it's a male IDOM, but they stole half of it and they're going to Tanchico for the other half, and that's their plan.
Well, you find out it's a male IDOM at the end of the episode.
Because that's what the Black Osh are yakking about. So all right, whatever. Book accurate, Uncanny Valley, still fucking terrible. And then the Gray Man shows up that we saw before. And this is a scene from the books, right? It's not done exactly like this, but a Gray Man with a crossbow is taking a shot at a Gawain. It misses. They run around, chase her down. The Gray Man's been stabbed in the hallway. So, but at least from this guy misses. They blast him out of the room. When they come out and find him, God, he looks like a White Walker. But he's been stabbed in the heart. What's really dumb about this is Elaine asks, like, she's like, I didn't hit him that hard. How is he dead? I'm like, bitch, there's a fucking knife right in his heart, like right there. How are you not seeing that?
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, Varen shows up and she knows a lot about Gray Men, even though Moron didn't know fuck all and needed to be informed about Gray Men by Lanfear. But it gets dumber because now Varen... This is, again, the whole point about Uncanny Valley and just you make a subtle change. So Nynaeve, so who Varen is playing in this scene right here is Sheriam in the books. And we all know how Sheriam turns out, but it's wonderfully done in the books because you raise suspicions about Sheriam in book 3, and you don't get confirmation of that until like book 10 or 11. That there's not something not on the level with her. So that very subtly done. Here you have Nynaeve ask Varen what she's doing up here, and it's like, Nynaeve, you're in fucking Varen's room looking at the materials Varen left for you to fucking study because Varen is in on this plan. Why is this your question? That's the one thing. And the other side is Varen's like, what are you doing up here? It's like, you were letting them look at your materials that you had assembled for them in this place. Like, this is wild. But, you know, running from the scene or leaving from the scene and then saying, did you notice how she didn't know or didn't ask who stabbed him? Good line, lifted from the books. It just doesn't work for Varen. It works for Sheriam, but it doesn't work for Varen. And it's just so close, so no cigar. This is just not good. Anyways, you ready for this, bud?
No.
Are you ready for this?
Anyway.
Oh, yeah. Pirate Island Tanchico. So just so you guys know, we've dived into a little bit of the production history of this thing, but it looks like all the Tanchico stuff was filmed down in South Africa on the set of Black Sails, which was like a Starz history drama of the age of piracy. It's supposed to be set in the Caribbean, but they built all this big set, all these pirate islands, and they have all these piratey costumes. And it looks like because Black Sails is a terrible show and ended its run, that Wheel of Time was able to basically go in and use all their sets and props or whatever for a big fucking discount. So they decided to do that. So all this Tanchico stuff was filmed down in South Africa. And oh my God, are the costumes just fucking awful.
Jesus Christ.
It's like, if you showed this as a
dude,
if you put this up 4 years ago, right, to any of the like Wheel of Time subreddits or anything on the internet and say, hey, in 4 years' time, this is going to be a scene from the Wheel of Time, people would have been just like, no fucking way. This is Black Sails. This is Black Sails with a female Tyrion Lannister in the front. What the fuck are we looking at? I still don't know. I still can't believe this.
You're looking at mental illness is what you're looking at.
Yeah. Okay. So we've got Tiny Sedai now with Shan-Chan braids down the side of her hair because the Shan-Chan came from Terabon for some reason. It came from Tanchico. You've got Leandrin is still in red, but like, holy shit. I don't get it. You've got, what is it, Haughty Sedai? This is her Genie Cade with like a 19th century freaking pirate cap. I don't know. Like, okay, I got to get off of this. It's just silly. And then, yeah, we have Red Wedding number 2. We had a red wedding in the first episode. Now we have an actual wedding. Make it red by ripping some dude's heart out. But go ahead.
The writers of the show thinking that the Aes Sedai have super strength is amazing. Like, don't get me wrong, Alana jumping over the fireball was hysterical, but this is a new level of funny. Like, what are we doing here?
She shows up and there's a child bride about to get married to someone who seems to be a descendant of whoever impregnated Leandrin. So she's mad about it, rips his heart out, and then, you know, gets Tiny Sedai to help treat the child bride and take memories from her, which is why I think that Matt and Tiny Sedai are going to end up, you know, take my memories away. Yay. But again, her actual plot is to try and find the other part of the Idom, but she's also going here to have revenge on who impregnated her 100 fucking years ago, as well as paint the glyph where her son was born, which is like some we'll get to at the end, but it's gross and it's disgusting, and this is not what I wanted in my Wheel of Time show. So yay! Yep. All right. So Elida and Min have a talk. They somehow know that they're both seers, and that it's like a thing because Min was a bit of an oddity, right? And Moraine was like the one Aes Sedai that knew about her, Moraine and Swan, but now everyone apparently does. And whatever, we are seers. She gives some dialogue, and I don't hate it because Min's approach to her visions has been just out of character throughout the whole show. That she hates her ability because she's not like that in the books. And in the book, she's kind of nonchalant about it, and she's also able to recognize exactly what Elida says here. Like, even if you know something's going to happen, that doesn't change the fact that you can still affect how you get there and how you react to it. So you can view it as an asset, not a curse, which is, I think, the crux of this scene. But this scene only works because they butchered Min's character and her motivations up until now. So.
This scene does not work at all. This is one of the worst political machination scenes I've ever seen. Like, Elida's entire plan is she looks at Min and goes, "You know, I know you're a spy for Sawan. Do you promise not to tell Sawan the secret I'm about to tell you?" And then she tells Min that the Red Ajah plans to overthrow Sawan. And then Min takes the information to Sawan, and Sawan goes, "Yep, sounds about right. Time to get rid of some Red Ajah sitters." Like, that was the entirety of the plan. It was just asking Min, "Hey, do you promise not to tell Sawan the secret?"
Well, maybe Elida knew that Min would betray her, but yeah, okay. Point taken, and I had that later in my notes. All I was saying is we're just trying to establish a bit of a rapport between the two, but it couldn't happen in the way the dialogue was done without the previous terrible setup. But yes, it's like you're 100% right. The bonding moment seems to be like, oh, this is how Elida turns Min to her side for their political machinations, which at the end of the day, I don't even want to keep track about who is double crossing who, because it's a double cross. So you just don't know if did somebody think 6 moves ahead, or was somebody an idiot at step 1 and dropped the ball and it worked somehow. Like, it's impossible to determine.
It's also probably worth noting that this person is under significant compulsion by Robin at the moment.
That too. But what's missing about Elida, which was very apparent in the books, is that she is a Cassandra figure. So she has the foretelling, but the one thing that's consistent about Elida and her foretellings as a seer is that she always gets it wrong. And the show gets it wrong here, where they say, like, the queendom of Andor was key to the last battle. No, the prophecy or the foretelling that she had was the royal line of Andor. And the time that Elida had the foretelling, the royal line of Andor was still House Mantir. So it applied to either Luke or Tigraine. And ultimately it was Tigraine, because Tigraine gave birth to Rand, and that's the fulfillment of your foretelling. But Elida was like, it's kind of up in the air, attached herself to the likely winner, House Turkand, and then has been obsessed with making sure that House Turkand kept rising, and was obsessed with keeping Gawain and especially Elaine close because of her foretelling. But she was making a mistake. So Elida's character is not one of wisdom about what she's espousing here, about if you have the foretelling, it can be an asset or an advantage. She's a Cassandra figure. She gets the foretelling, but she's basically the wrong interpretation of it. She gets everything fucking wrong. When she gets raised to Amyrlin in the books, she has her foretelling about the Black Tower. She gets it all wrong. She gets unearned confidence in the rightness of her actions because of her foretellings, which the book reader can interpret differently. Oh, the Amyrlin will know her anger, or have her, like, he will know her anger. That's not referring to Elida, that's referring to Egwene type of shit. Anyways, time to move on from this fucking nonsense and get to this fucking nonsense. So it's been a day, and now Egwene's a dreamwalker because she did it once by accident as she was getting choked by Lanfear. Yay! So Melaine and Bear are the Tardad dreamwalkers. I guess that's fair. Egwene gets a clue that it's Lanfear, or at least someone that's alive that's choking her out in her dreams. And I'm left wondering here that if what happens in the dream can hurt you, then why did Rand not die when he seppuku'd himself in season 1, episode 8?
Excellent question.
Anyways, let's go on from this. So Rand and Lanfear are in their sex hut. Lanfear wants to kill the Dark One now to free her from her oaths. All right, let's just speed run to the fucking ending of everything. But she notes that Kalendor is a Sa'angreal for men, and the Sarkonin is for women. Whatever, that's wrong. Gay, it's not for women, it's for men. Yeah, Vora is Sa'angreal that the tower has, but let's not use that. Let's use what Sanderson invented in like chapter 37 of the last book, because we can't have the Choden Call. We just can't. Because we couldn't have Bael Doman in season 1, and we couldn't have Rand go through Tremoncian in season 2. We just need to invent this new thing that Moron's going to find eventually, and whatever. Team up that together. Let's go kill the devil, and that'll free Lanfear from her oaths. She has no ulterior motive whatsoever. Whatever.
It is crazy to me that this is Rand's what? 5th scene in the last 2 episodes, and he's been the center point of none of them.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. It's almost like the people who made the show wanted to be about Lady Wizards and not the Dragon Reborn.
Yep.
Almost. Just almost. All right, so we're in a fucking sweat tent, and fuck me, this is getting fucking stupid. Morin asks a dumb question about Ruidian, and one of the Aiel turns to her and says, calls her a child, which is nice. Lan acts like a pussy who can't take the heat. Like, he is literally in pain here as the steam gets poured on the rocks, and I'm just, oh my god. Crying with his nipples out for Steppen, or, the sauna's too hot. What?
Always.
What a fucking pussy. Anyway, so
Always.
Moron and Land banter about the new girl that shows up and is giving them sex eyes, and they say, "Oh yeah, Moron, you need to go and get your bean flicked. So why don't you hit that shit?" And then I've never been less excited for nudity in a show. But anyways, it's not Moron that she's after because here she is. I had to censor her nipples with my strategically placed pink dots. But that's Melindra now. Well done, show. But Melindra has a giant back tattoo, which is of a golden crane, apparently. And Lan is intrigued by this and goes outside and is wondering because the Aiel don't have tattoos except for the clan chiefs and other stuff. But I'm left wondering if she's actually Malkiri and was raised by Aiel, when did she get the tattoo? Did she get the tattoo as a child? Or did she get it as an adult so it would be well formed on her skin? Anyways, I think they're only doing this as a vehicle to speed run to some lines that they like from book 11, and that's kind of why they're dropping it in here. I don't know where they go with this, but I really hope they don't. Well, maybe I do. If Lan starts shacking up with Melindra, because Nynaeve's the worst, so we can forgive that. But then Melindra also ends up being a dark friend like she is in the books and tries to kill Lan. So it's terrible. All right, we're into like my final 10 slides. We're now getting to the 2 fucking rivers. And it's gay. Perrin decides to turn himself in. It makes less sense for Perrin to do this. No. So Perrin decides not to turn himself in the books after his whole family's been murdered. And he's kind of like, what do I gain from it? I can't protect my family anymore because they're all dead. Here, okay, maybe that should still be his plan. Daze Congar comes out and acts like a giant bitch. But the one thing that is most wild about this whole scene is that Merrin gets up and explains to Perrin that if he turns himself in, the White Cloaks will leave because they finally got their man, and then the Two Rivers will lose the protection of the White Cloaks from the Trollocs. So, Perrin, you need to stay America's Most Wanted. Otherwise, the feds will leave, and we'll lose the additional police protection that we've had for the last 2 months, or however long it's been.
Love it.
Just enhancing Robert Jordan's originally flawed story, aren't we? Anyways, why is she wearing plaid? That's the other thing that I want. Who gave all the Two Rivers plaid outfits? I don't know. So, anyways, there's not a man to be seen in the scene, and then we cut to the true star of this whole story arc, which is Alana and Maxim. So Alana asks what Maxim is doing up in the attic, and I'm like, "You mean hiding in your fucking hiding place, you dumb retard? Like, this is where you're supposed to be." Maxim asks why you don't turn off the bond, and I'm like, "What? Because there's a fucking switch? Like, she can mask it, but what?" Anyways, they get mad at each other because he's apparently he feels really sad for Ivan, although he wasn't bonded to Ivan, he was bonded to Alana, but because he feels Alana is feeling nothing, Alana is suppressing her emotions, that makes him extra sad. And I want to fucking fall on a sword here. I want to be like what's her nuts and like chamber around, just because I want this to fucking end. Like, who fucking wrote this, and why did you think that people wanted to see this instead of what was actually in the books? This is their fucking fan fiction exploring their thruples and their just insane. Oh, I hate it so much. Anyways,
it's really
Maxim
bad.
He's feeling grief independent of the bond. He's sad that Alana isn't sad, and this is sad and awful. And why are you in the two? That's the other thing. This scene ends with Maxim turning to Alana and saying, "Why are we even here? We should be hunting Leandrin." And I'm like, "Yeah, why the fuck are you here?"
You should, correct.
And then they don't answer. Oh, okay.
Is there a chance we don't get an answer this entire season?
A very good chance, because I don't think the writers know, right? Because Alana is in the Two Rivers with Varen to find girls who can channel, because there was so much, there was such prospect in Nynaeve and Egwene that the White Tower decided, since we haven't been to the Two Rivers in forever, maybe we can find a lot more talent there. And lo and behold, they do. But that was their original mission. But that required planning and foresight and time, which the show doesn't establish, because both Varen and Alana were in the tower yesterday. So in the aftermath of said battle where Ivan dies and they're now together, maybe that's going to be the explanation at the end of it. It's basically Alana turns Ivan into face paint, looks all sad, and in an off-screen conversation, Swan turned to her and said, "Alana, I have the perfect mission for you to kind of keep you away from all this and let you focus on something else. Go to the Two Rivers and find girls that can channel." It would be stupid, but it would be book accurate given the rest of all this.
That wouldn't be pressing enough for her to need to use the Waygate, though. So,
yeah, but the Waygates are innocuous. What's the worst that could happen? The Machim Shin is going to come and like tell her something mean. It's not a real threat.
Fair enough.
All right. Okay, so let's get some dialogue with Fail, everyone's favorite character, I know. So she comes up and asks Perrin if he's ever heard of the Horn of Valir, and then he chuckles like, "Oh, yeah, I've heard of it." Oh, whatever. She calls herself Mandarb, which is good, because that's what Fail Zareen originally calls herself, like that's her hunter name. It's good that Perrin laughs, because it's a horse's name. The one thing that's not good is, how does Perrin know that that's a horse's name, especially when it's Lan's horse, who he abandoned in episode 6 of season 1. It's been No, it's been over a year. Well, 8 months.
No, I
since-
think they abandoned Land's horse in episode 2 at Shadowlogoth.
Fair.
Not that it matters.
Yeah. he got a replacement. Yeah, okay, yeah, that horse did eat it, but he got a replacement stallion that he rode from from Tarvalon to the Waygate, and then abandoned that one, and then Land did not have a horse in Falma, so either Perrin's got an eidetic memory for horse names, or yeah, this is another lifted book line like Perrin's beard that no longer fits, because in the books, when Fail, Zareen Bashir, says her name is Mandarb, Perrin is able to point at Mandarb on the boat and say, that's Mandarb right there.
Yep.
So, doesn't work. Okay, let's move on from this. So now we've got Matt and Min again, and Matt is deciding now to fucking apologize to Min because it was all his fault all along. And I'm like, what the actual fuck? Matt is not in the wrong in any of this, yet the show has somehow construed it because Min has been a complete inconsiderate bitch throughout all of this that, okay, it is Matt's fault. So anyways, I don't know how Min knows that Matt fought at Falm. Maybe it's because he told everyone, and then Min sees a vision of Matt hanging again, and then they're getting into a bit of an argument because Matt doesn't want to know that, and Galad shows up and he's being a dick, and we're just setting up the Matt versus Galad and Gowan fight. Yay. Ugh. Okay, so Leanne goes to the Red Harem, and she's a cunt. She says that she followed the rats here, which doesn't make sense because Tarvalon has wards against rats. That's a little nitpick. And she's now sending the Reds to go hunt Mazrim Taim. Sutama decides to go, and it was Elida's plan all along. That's what I got. So maybe she did get like, Min, I can trust you. Don't tell me this. And that's exactly how this all kind of got together. But Sutama is like, no, I'm gonna leave the tower. And then Elida at the end of this is like, oh, we how does she? I don't have the freaking voice box of someone who's like, like Ned from South Park has that. That's how she talks.
Jr.
We can't go into the hall with only 2 sitters. She's so smart. Saldea is not on the other side of the world. It's actually closer than Falma, where they sailed from a month ago. But yeah,
I'm also a big fan of the implication that Swan has massive issues with Elida being in the tower, but is also able to just dispatch sitters at any moment, and doesn't choose to dispatch Elida.
I don't know. So anyways, Elida schemed to become a sitter, so fuck this. Like, it works out. Smart politics. Now we're back to the 2 rivers. So instead of getting the scene or the part of the books where Perrin is going from farm to farm and convincing people to come to Emmons Field and, find strength in numbers, instead it's dumber in that they were all already in Emmons Field and now they want to leave. And he convinces them, don't leave, that's stupid. And they're like, why is it stupid? It's like, because we got strength in numbers. And then they all stay. So, yes, it's maybe quicker to do this way in terms of screen time, but it doesn't make anybody look smart. And the fact that Perrin is quiver talking throughout all of this, it just bugs me. It's like Daniel Henney was Marcus Rutherford's acting coach. It's just terrible.
Yep.
Underwhelming. Speaking of underwhelming, now we get our Matt fighting the princes. I'm honestly shocked that Nynaeve did not step in to save Matt from this. I'm not going to say too much about this. It's not how it was done. This is a fan service scene, and I think we just got to be careful what we wish for at this point. I don't want to see any scenes from the books anymore. Not that I don't think I ever did after season 1, because they'll just get it slightly wrong. And here it's like, there's nothing about Matt trying to find a way out of the tower, needing a couple of marks, being emaciated, that the princes are not dicks, they're actually somewhat noble about it and reluctant to fight it because they don't think that Matt has a chance. And it's a wonderful scene to basically showcase Matt's true abilities. May come across as overpowered, but if you really think about it, there's an explanation for it. Matt has lived hundreds of lives in the Great Hunt when they went from the Steading Sofu, I think, to Fulm. Through the portal stones, he lived hundreds of lives. Probably a lot of those lives had some martial aspect to it. So he's got all that muscle memory about how to wield a quarterstaff kind of in him. So he's not overpowered. Okay, let's speed run towards the end here. So now we've got Perrin finally blacksmithing. Mandar shows up and says that her name is actually Fail, but her name is actually Zareen. So way to fuck that up. But I'll say that with this actress, her real name is Lady Gaga.
I totally forgot this scene existed.
Yeah, I was blitzed by the end of this fucking thing too, even though it was only like 7 a.m. All right, so now we're going off to Tanchico. Nynaeve wants to know if they can go by some other way than by a boat. Why? Maybe they could go. Oh, okay, she's afraid of ships now. And then for some reason, Elaine thinks that the Grey Men are following rumors. I'll have to trust my notes on this one because I don't want to watch the scene again, and I don't think I have since that. But it sounds like, so okay, we're just going to stay here and get killed by Grey Men. So we need to. Oh, that's what it was. Elaine gets really mad at Nynaeve for bringing Matt and said we should have been quiet about this because the last thing we need is for Grey Men to know where we're going. Whatever. So now we've got Leandrin in the dungeon where she gave birth to her 100-year-old son 100 years ago, completing the fucking ritual. And you've got like the voiceover is just obscene here, right? Because it's the sound of like a child getting raped, and it's like, fuck you, Rafe. You don't need to be this edgy. Like Wheel of Time had hardcore shit into it, but it was done tastefully. Like at times, like off screen, or it was hinted at, or whatnot. Like at this point, I'm expecting when Moghedien gets summoned by Shadar Haran, that we'll actually have that full on rape scene. Not that I actually want to see that, and I really hope that we don't, and I hope the show gets canceled. But if that happens, I would fully expect a full on Shadar Haran Moghedien rape scene at this point. All right, penultimate slide. Look at that hair on Tiny Sedai. This is
your issue is Tiny Sedai's hair, not Leandrin's hair.
Well, I'm getting there. It's like what's in front, but Leandrin's hair is just nuts too. But this is somewhat book accurate, right? So the Black Ajah are there, and they're like scheming, and they're trying to figure out where they need to find something or whatnot. And Moghedien is their servant in the hall. Scary, but. All right, so they're there trying to find the other half of the IDOM so that they can control Rand. Turns out Leandrin could kill 2 birds with 1 stone, do her death ritual for her son. But yeah, this what did we learn, Alex? What did we learn in this episode?
The person who wrote this episode is mentally broken.
We learned not to do this again.
Yeah, that's valid.
That's what we learned. Rand has no agency. Matt apologizes to a fucking dark friend for being a dark friend. Whatever. Perrin is like, okay, if the town wants me to stay as America's Most Wanted, I will be if it keeps you guys safe. Nynaeve still has feelings for Leandrin. Egwene gets choked out. I don't like her. You know what the one upshot of this whole episode is? I don't think Moron said more than like 5 lines.
Dude, she was barely in this one. The downside is that Rand was barely in this one. Like
the downside is everybody else was in this one. That's how bad this is getting. Anyway, looks like we're keeping this at under 2 hours.
Under 2 hours.
Amazing. Thanks, Bud, for I'm looking very much forward to your own more succinct episode reviews. I hope it's been filmed and scripted and come out pretty soon because I want to laugh. I want to laugh at something.
My wife owes me a thumbnail. That's the only thing we're waiting on.
Hey, if I wanted to fix the thumbnail on this fucking stream, do I reach out to you to do that?
What do you mean?
I think there's the night, like, you'll see it on the YouTube, but I had a thumbnail made for it. I just don't think it loaded properly. But anyways, everybody, it looks like we had about 20 people in chat throughout, so thanks for joining. I warned you guys at the start, you shouldn't watch it like this because we don't talk to your comments, and you have to hear us kind of get slower and slower as we speak because we're getting drunker. The real benefit is like after the fact when you can put it at 2 times speed, and then a 2-hour stream turns into a 1-hour stream, and it's like doable. Anyways, appreciate you guys for showing up. I hope you had some kind of fun because we didn't. And stay tuned for Alex's review, and stay tuned for the next one. And in the meantime, walk in the light.
The wheel of time turns, and ages come and pass, leaving memories that become legend. Legend fades to myth, and even myth is long forgotten when the age that gave it birth comes again. In one age, called the Third Age by some, an age yet to come, an age long past, a wind rose in the mountains of mist. The wind was not the beginning. There are neither beginnings nor endings to the turning of the wheel of time, but it was a beginning.